If you don't change and you don't grow, your company may fail and you will have nowhere to work and think people can get into your life and do things that can be destructive. It's kind of like which part of that spectrum do you want to be on? Take action and be ready for a battle. Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Technology Podcast. Today's guest is David, CEO and co-founder of PEG, a cybersecurity company reinventing zero trust, passwordless authentication, and device-based access to help MSPs secure modern digital workspaces. David, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Justin. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. You're in cybersecurity. I didn't even know that. Wow.
Wow, it's a good thing you learned that.
I learned something new. Tell the audience a little bit about your journey. Like,
hmm
what made you get into cybersecurity and this part specifically? And what kind of some struggles trying to figure that out along the way and building your business?
Well, okay. So, what led me to cybersecurity? Well, I mean, I've always been a bit of a nerd, I guess you could say. I mean, that's how it usually is. I think. I mean, maybe especially if you're a co-founder of a technology company, that's how it usually starts, right? I was born in Brno in the Czech Republic, and so back in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of computer science focused schools. I was one of the lucky kids that was able to attend sort of one of the first schools that was, I guess, what they then called IT focused schools, and that's kind of I think where my journey started. And I think just kind of thinking about like the challenges, especially if you're, I feel like this tunes in well to your topic here. It's sometimes hard to remain human in all of this, right? Like we talk passwordless, zero trust, and all these. So zero trust is a really interesting thing. I had this session I did at the GTIA event in London where I was like telling a story where I'm sitting with my buddy over a beer and I'm kind of like he's asking me like about my work and stuff like that, and so I mentioned zero trust, and he's like, like he basically tells me that it sounds like I'm pretty paranoid, or like, and like what the hell is up to this thing called zero trust? Because you need trust to be human, right? Like you need trust to be able to interact with people, so that's kind of interesting. Is that like we bring these topics and we kind of feel like people in the industry feel like they're normal, but like working around like something like zero trust all the time is kind of weird if you think about it from a human perspective, right?
Yeah. People are always like, yeah, you care about privacy so much. Oh, you said you're so paranoid. But it's one
Yeah.
of those things, are they not paranoid enough?
I mean that's what we think, right? Like
Right?
people in the industry, that's what we think. But I don't know, man. Like who's to say?
That
No,
is
but like
true.
obviously, there's like real reasons to be like to think about privacy. I think it's maybe less so about the fear and more so about like actually understanding like what's going on, understanding where the world is moving, understanding that just like how data works and what that means for you as an individual, right? And that's kind of what it's about. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's and sometimes like there's like a like like a I mean, there's fear. There's definitely fear in that somehow, but I don't think that's what it should be about. I think maybe like demystifying the whole thing can help like bring it from it being about the emotion and fear, and just like it being about people sort of having more of an understanding of what's going on and maybe what they can do about it, right? And how they need to adapt with all this new stuff.
I agree. I always try and tell people to help them overcome their fear. That's one of those things is kind of I compare it to consistency and changing habits. Because you change your habits over time, you have less fear. You start to understand how things start working a lot better. You have to have that consistency, not only in your life, but as in your business. And people don't see that there. They don't get it. They're just so scared and they'll get overwhelmed and they do nothing or
Yeah.
they do very little.
Yeah, I mean, fear is definitely the enemy of like change, I guess you could say. And people usually don't change because they're just afraid of what might happen if they do. And like a lot of the times you find out that if you sort of commit and you just give a bit of energy to something every day, it ends up not being actually it doesn't like it's not stressful anymore. It's just something you do and you get there quicker than you'd think.
I agree. I love that. I used to feel that same way when I first got into really deep diving into cybersecurity. That was always security focused. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, all this stuff I have to know, all these things I have to do. I'm getting overwhelmed. How am I going to ever protect anyone? Am I going to be good enough? And I was just like, okay, hold on. Let me take a step back from here and just kind of learn things one thing at a time over
Hmm.
time. And I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that and I started becoming where I am now, able to explain and focus on things and humanize things more, not just be so technical about them, you know? But
yeah.
the technical stuff, there is a time and place for that, like
Oh
100%.
yeah.
It has to be there.
But you know what? Like that's the thing that like I mean, I think I still kind of struggle with, and it's something that's easy to go down the rabbit hole, especially if you're like me and like our company where you're trying to innovate, right? You're trying to focus on the tech, you're trying to do better in terms of the technology. And we see that really there's like what we're doing is about technical innovation, right? And that kind of makes it easy to then go down the rabbit hole and try and take everyone else with you to kind of see what nice technology you have and how it's the best thing in the world and whatever. But then that's not really what people care about, and they don't really need to know that. And there's so much technology out there that's like that's like way too overwhelming. And but yeah, but it's a bit of an internal struggle because as a nerd, there's someone who's really excited about this stuff. It's just like that's the stuff that you naturally want to talk about, right? Like exactly. So
There's definitely a balance. I feel that one because I struggled with that myself for the longest time. And that's like I got into what I'm doing right now and having these conversations because you do need the technical stuff. It is a rabbit hole you can go down, but most people just stare at you in the abyss and be like, huh? What are you
yeah,
talking about? So
yeah,
actually being able to simplify these terms and stuff to them so they actually do take action is kind of the key, you know?
yep,
There's a duality that we have to have both. I feel like within this industry, a lot of people don't have both or they don't think about both enough. Like
yeah,
they know there's a human aspect, but they're like, "Oh, we have to get the technology done." And
right,
then we
yeah,
need to have that shift more, you know? We need to humanize things so that we are able to sit down, look at, okay, we wanna do zero trust. What does that mean? Why do I need this? And then so people don't get so overwhelmed. So I feel that.
yeah. And also like why that should matter to you. I feel like that's something that I've learned over time, and it's something that I'm trying to get better at all the time, and then I'm trying to make sure that my team is better at all the time. Is I mean, because I mean, okay, there's layers to this, right? Like we're at
Yeah.
the technology layer, and then if you trying to move away from that and can like start thinking about outcomes and what the technology actually means for people, and then you kind of realize, okay, it's more about what's happening on their side, right? Like
Yeah.
what does it mean for the company, for example, in our case, if we're a B2B business, right? Like what does it mean for the company? What does that risk mean to them? Like what is it that they're facing and what are the situations that can happen? And I think the really, really interesting stuff only starts appearing once you start thinking about what that means for the people, right? Because if it's like, oh, that it's just if it's just money, or if it's just sort of like, I don't know, like you take it like lawsuits or whatever, it's still not really humanizing it, right? But it's more about having those conversations about when this happens or if this happens, what does that mean to you? Like and that's kind of where I think that really connects is having a really good understanding how all of this fits together, right? Because it's like there's technology on the one side, but it's about bridging the gap, and it's several hoops, right? Like it's not just like one step, but it's several hoops to get there, and
Too
it's yeah,
many
so it's
layers.
there's a lot of layers, yeah,
Yeah, and I've been learning myself that like you just mentioned, I've been learning to connect the human part to the business issues that are happening. To so for the business, like what is this going to hinder them from achieving or accomplishing? Not just, oh, you need to have this, you should be doing this. They don't care what
hmm
they should be doing. They want to
right,
know what money is this costing, like you said. How is this going to hinder my business? What problem are you solving for the
yeah.
business?
It's like the habits thing you talked about, right? Like it's like, oh, there's a thing about just recently heard about this. Not sure where this is from, but it was about habits, and it was about how people who have cancer, um, where there's a high, where a big part of the reason is lifestyle. They like 80% of the time they like when it's treated successfully, even though they are well aware that they're supposed to change their habit and they've consulted with with a professional and whatever, they still don't end up doing it. 80% of the time they don't change those habits, right? And so that's the story
Yeah.
of what you should be doing, right? And I feel like a lot of the times people kind of know what they should be doing, but it's not the same as taking action. And that's kind of going deeper on a human level, and actually get into the level of internalizing things and committing to things, and that's the hard part.
I
And I
love
think
how you
especially sorry.
No, sorry to interrupt you. That is so true and profound right there because that is kind of what I've been trying to get myself into that level of understanding with people about when you learn, you got to put it into practice. So just
Mhm.
because you know that nothing happens, but you have to when you put it into practice, that slowly creates those habits and consistency over time to change something in your life that you have to do, whether it's like the cancer or protecting your business. 'Cause a lot of people have bad habits and they've learned these things from who God knows we're everywhere, life, society, TV. And
Yeah.
then there's just like they kind of get stuck and don't understand how can I internalize this and put this into practice so it works for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And that's what they have to do, right? That's not up
Yeah.
to us. I think our job is to help them as best as we can, but
Guide
it's up
them.
to them. But it's up to them, right? They got to be it's like you can't commit for someone else. That's just not something that's in your that's not something that's just not a that's not a you problem, that's their problem, them problem, right? So
Yeah. I used to have that problem a lot when I was first starting in IT. I didn't get that. I'm like, why the hell aren't you doing this? Why can't you do this? They had this mentality of reacting like forcefulness and telling them, you have to do this. Why aren't you doing this? And like,
mhm.
I didn't get that until I started really internalizing, realizing if someone talked to me like that, I'm not going to do shit. So hold on a minute. I got to figure out how to be a human being here and talk to them about this in a way that they understand and guide them on their journey to protection, to
Mhm.
being a better human, to being a better in their business.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So in talking about that, just got to kind of get into that we were talking earlier about zero trust and passwordless. So do why do businesses need this compared to just doing like the old ways of like MFA and stuff? What is it that they're gaining? Like, yeah, can we explain that a little more?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, let me think about how I take this from a non-technical perspective first.
Oh, I know that's the hard part.
And then working back to the technology. Okay. So it really comes down to people that want to make a living on stealing things from you or getting you to pay them money or just maybe purely just doing damage because someone else is you know, paying them money to do so and whatever. Like those are really that's the why. Like that's the like that's really where everything starts, right? And then the thing is, these people they try and do a lot of different things to be successful at this, right?
They come from
And they're just coming from all directions. The reason why, let me maybe talk a little bit about passwordless first. I
okay, yeah.
think the reason why we talk about passwords a lot is because people like at the same time because they're really doing it to enrich themselves, they're thinking like a business, right? So they're thinking, what's the cheapest possible way or what's the way that has the most ROI for me that I can do to get into these companies and do most damage? And it turns out getting someone's passwords or bypassing an MFA is one of the easiest way of doing it, right? So that's why it's also the most likely way of it happening to you. I think and this like I'm like what we do is like we kind of try and watch out for the trends, like what's happening in the threat landscape and that sort of thing. For web services, use of stolen credentials as a way to make a breach happen, or like one of the first actions to make a breach happen, that happens in 88% of all web-based breaches. That's a crazy staggering number, right? So
I've
that's why
seen that firsthand.
passwordless, right? That's why passwordless, because unless you have a passwordless system in place, then you really can't you can't really expect to be doing something to prevent this bad trend from happening to you, basically, right? So that's kind of the why I think behind it is bad people are trying to find easy ways to get to some people so that they can do damage and get some money out of that, right? They might just happen to hit you because they don't really care who they hit, right? And they're
You're
going
not
after the
human
easiest
to them.
possible thing. Exactly. Yeah. They don't care. Like they don't care who you are. It's not like they're going after you, right? Like they're not going after me either. They're going after anyone. They're going after a number of people, so that's that because that's how they make money, right?
Yeah.
If they hack your account or whatever, and then they get your payroll person or whatever's taking care of your finance and pay a bill that they're not supposed to, and it doesn't have to be $1 million, right? But it could be something that's enough for them, and it's damaging enough to you. And if they get do that enough times, well, they're pretty good, right? So that's what that's.
Hey, my fellow humans, sorry to interrupt your video, but if you're looking for more ways to protect and empower your healthcare practice, we would love to help. At ITCMD, our mission is to simplify IT, boost security, and support your compliance journey with a human touch so you can focus on caring for your patients. Want to see how easy IT and cybersecurity can be? Schedule a free consult or check out our resources at iteecmd.net. Let's build a safer, stronger future together. Okay, bye.
About.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel that because sometimes they'll get that password, they'll get in the system, and there's kind of watch. They'll watch your finances, they'll watch what you have, what you're capable of paying them. People don't know they'll sit there for the longest time.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
don't change their passwords. Some people for never. They just keep the same password and same cache credentials.
yeah. And the thing is, like, also they're also not dumb, right? So they're changing their tactics as well as we kind of progress as an industry, or as people adopt better, more sophisticated technologies. They need to adapt, and they need to use. So one of those things that I think, that's because you asked about passwords, but we're also talking about MFA, right? And one thing that we're seeing is MFA also isn't really a good enough of a protection mechanism anymore, because all it really does is it shortens the time of the hacker being able to use that access basically to your account, right? So
Yeah.
maybe before they would have like months or whatever to do, or maybe sometimes even years to, figure out what it is that they want to do with your account. Maybe with an MFA policy, if you're checking your multi-factor like every 2 weeks, they would only have 2 weeks. But at the same time, we're seeing the trends in AI, and we're seeing that since everyone's adopting these kind of things, they need to get better at it. So they're, just figuring out ways to make that decision quicker and just do it in time, right? Like just do it fast enough so that it actually can have the result they want for them. And what we're seeing, and that's the key thing here, right? We're still seeing that the amount of money they're making out of this, the amount of successful breaches is still rising. So clearly, it's not getting better as a whole,
There's
right?
a fundamental problem here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I keep saying to people, because a lot of companies are still they're still operating in an old framework of reactiveness. No policies, nothing in place, but technology is getting better. The threat landscape is getting even a lot better, but they're still operating this old framework. They're not understanding they have to upgrade their frameworks as they go,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're just not doing that.
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
that
I
as
mean, yeah.
companies.
It's kind of hard because it's like I feel like one like there's something, because to me I'm like, this is something I think about a lot, and I think a part of it is that there's something in that kind of like a little bit unnatural happening here. Like we made that parallel with health, right? And so I mean I think I think that fits only partially. The reason why it fits partially is like the part that fits is that it is something evolving that fast, right?
They don't like change.
Yeah, and but it's different with it's different with like technology and the way adversaries, what kind of tactics they use, and so that's kind of, yeah, and that's so fast. It just can feel overwhelming sometimes to kind of keep up with that change and kind of keep up with. And I think that kind of leads us to the other thing that you were asking about, which is zero trust, right? Because I
Yes.
think zero trust is about kind of building fundamental principles in place that are, I will say, timeless, right? I think that's important here. I mean, I think we have some legacy debt, right? Like we have some debt from, and this is like in my world, it's all about like access security, which zero trust is a lot about, of course, right? Like it's a zero trust network architecture, and it's about access security. But like we have legacy, like we have we used to think about accounts, whereas we should be thinking about identity, right? But it's
Yeah.
not like that's going to change. Like we will be thinking about identity as we go forward. It's not going to like that's the human part to it, right? Like it's not going to change. It's always going to be people using technology and it's always going to be there to serve us. And that's why identity centric systems and identity centric designs, which is exactly what zero trust is about, are going to stay here and they're going to be that's what's going to be the fundamental piece to all of this that actually helps us do things right in the long term, I think.
I agree with that. I love how you put that because it is a human condition, a human issue. Humans are always the weakest link, but we can be the greatest power.
Yeah,
But that's
absolutely.
trained with training and habits and just being able to want to do better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's as human beings, it's hard to like change things, and I get that.
Hmm.
But it's like if you don't change and you don't grow, your company may fail and you will have nowhere to work and then think people can get into your life and do things that can be destructive. It's kind of like which part of that spectrum do you want to be on? Take action and fail, take action and be ready for a battle.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, damn, I started the war somewhere. Not planning on doing that, but it just came out that way. So let me ask you this. What are some challenges that you've seen when talking to people about this to help them get on board with it? Because I know myself, that I talk about zero trust and passwordless, people just stare at me like into the abyss, like, huh? What? I
Yeah.
have a password. I'm like, oh boy. Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
with MSPs too.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I think the challenge is because these are all very like these are industry terms, right? Like
Yeah.
it depends who you're working with and who you talk to. But I think at the end of the day, we need to be talking more about the outcomes. We need to be talking more about like what does this mean to you? How does that relate to what's happening and what the threat landscape looks like? So what does that mean to you? And then only then kind of getting because I think that the problem might definitely is
Yes.
people don't understand passwordless versus password. It's not it sounds like the next step to us, right? Like it sounds like a modernization. It sounds like something that helps to us. But that's not what at
Yeah.
all what it sounds like to them. To them, it just sounds like something that changes, which might even be exactly. It's like it's changing a habit, and will it even be better? You know what I mean? Like, will it even be better? That's kind of like what's going on through. So I think that's it. Like, it's not about the technology. It's about understanding what's happening, and then it's technology last. Really,
I love that. So it kind of goes back to what we've been saying this whole time is just humanizing it, connecting it to things they understand. So I know I work with a lot of MSPs and they're so technical and they don't really understand how to put these terms into ways that other people will understand them. 'Cause if we were able to do that, they'd be on board 100%. They have better
yeah,
sales, better growth, better understanding of what's going on. But I see that barrier, how hard that can be, because I had that for the longest time before I started this podcast and figuring it out.
yeah. I'll tell you. Like, I think because what I said before about like myself like being a nerd, being technical, like loving the technical part of things and you know, just being really nerdy about that. That's kind of like I think like we share that with a lot of our MSP partners actually. And I think it's also we're also seeing that that's kind of also part of the reason because it's not the standard thing because there's innovation, there's new things to talk about. It's hard. It's hard for them to kind of find their way in that. And I think and I'm appreciating more and more now. That's our job, kind of like to help them with that, right? Like
Yeah.
kind of we need to first humanize it for them and kind of help them first look at it from the other side so that they know how to talk to their customers about it because it's not about passwordless and it's not about passwords. It's about the outcomes, right? Like it's about if you know if you're a financial business, if you're these are like you're processing these payments, like what does it mean to you if this happens, right? And then let's talk about how that happens and how likely it is to happen. And if it happens, what are the ways or what are the makes to make sure that it doesn't happen, right? It's only then that it kind of like starts making sense, right?
I agree, and I love that. I was just sitting here thinking this is like across most industries, from cars or financial. Like if you have a car and you're trying to talk about rebuilding the engine, the spark plugs, I'm like, people are like, what are you talking about? And you have to be
Yeah,
like, you don't replace this part, your car will not drive, will not get to work. Simple.
yeah,
Oh, okay. But I
yeah,
think it's
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
thing we have as humans that we do that. We get stuck in our own world and we don't know how to really simplify stuff. We're so caught up in our heads and the tech and how cool this is to us. Like we understand this, you don't, whatever. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
cross. I feel
Yeah,
that
yeah,
'cause I've been
absolutely.
there.
Oh no, man. Like, and I feel like we're all there at some points, right? Like, and it's like
Yeah,
it's work. It's like you always constantly have to practice empathy to be able to like kind of get there, and it's because it's not like you do it once and you're done, right? Like that's not how it works. It's just something you practice, I think.
yeah, and you practice and you get better. Kind of goes back to the habits I was talking about, building the consistency over time. That
Yeah,
builds that better habit, better practice, better outcomes, as you were saying.
totally. Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
damn, this is a great podcast today. I love this.
Too. Yeah.
I should have had this conversation with you a long time ago. This is like the key points to just really being able to protect ourselves in the digital world right now is
Yeah.
understanding it from the human aspect and just really breaking it down. So yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're, like I mentioned the data breach report by Verizon, right? Nowhere in that report does it say anything that is like touching the human element. Like it's really for the techies. It's by the techies for the techies again, right? Like, and I really appreciate it. Like, it's absolutely amazing that something like this exists and that it's available the way it is, right? But I'm just like, but it's also important to like understand this is what's happening. Like, it's about cybersecurity. It's for people. And it's not something anyone can read, basically, right? That's just how it is.
I love how you put that because that kind of reminds me after that breach happens, then they send out this information to the customers like, hey, get this for this software, then you can get protected. So they did a good job explaining that part. Okay, you get this, we protect you from that. But then there's like more layers to that. So it's kind of like a good start. But
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you said, a lot of the other stuff is so technical and they don't care about that. They need to read that. So they kind of started doing a good thing over here, but they need to go kind of deeper with that and understanding if you get this protection, what does this involve? What else do you have to do? Because that still goes back to what habits you have to change. Because that's what all cybersecurity is about, changing habits. Not really about technology, like you said earlier, not really about the software. The software and tech helps 100%. But if you don't change those habits, you're going to be stuck in the same vicious cycle of life. Whew, well, David, I want to thank you so much for coming on here today. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. Is there
yeah.
anything you'd like to leave our audience with and where they can reach out to you guys also?
Ooh, I mean, you can reach out to us through our website for sure. Like, we have some nice ways that you can reach out to us. So if like this is something, if you're struggling with account takeover, if you're just wanting to learn more what that means, we're there to help.
What does it mean to you to be a human being?
What does it mean to be a human being? I think it means, I mean, a bunch of the things we talked about. First, practice and empathy, right? Like, that's absolutely, I think, one of the top things that makes us human, listening to one another, trying to see the other person's side. I think that's especially important since everything, especially in our industry, where it's all numbers, it's all tech, right? Yeah, I think practice and empathy, like that's probably the most important thing that being human means to me.
I love that. And that goes very well with what we talked about today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, David, so much for coming on here. I appreciate your time today. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, dude. Thank you.